Many parents find themselves a bit bewildered by the sheer uh, range of gaming platforms available. In this icon, in this image, still haven't even included things like PC computing and Mac gaming and all sorts. So just have to accept it from me that this is just one image I could have picked from many, and also conscious that pretty much all of these consoles are now out of date. Um, this section is more about platforms more than getting into too many specifics. So one of the main platforms is Microsoft Xbox, now Xbox One. This is, you have to be honest, this is primarily a console for adult males. So buying this for kids is not necessarily the best of choices, though it has to be said at the outset that doesn't matter which console you buy, there are games for kids on all of these platforms. But it has to be said that if you're buying it for your child, then you need to go to Nintendo. They are always well, they currently are the market leader in terms of provision of games for kids. But the other platforms are waking up to the fact that they've missed their opportunity here and are quickly catching up. So you will find great games on all of the platforms that are appropriate for kids to play. So, what if you do find yourself with an Xbox? Well, many parents opt for this because it is a much more powerful media machine than, say, the Wii. Both the PlayStation and the Xbox are great for just playing videos and photos and streaming media from a Mac or a PC. Certainly, I use it for that. But of course, they do play games too. So this would be the main staple, and the main kind of gamer is represented by this kind of game. Adult males in the age range demographic of around 30 years of age. That's where most of the money is. That's where most of the games are aimed, and that's where mainly PlayStation and Xbox are aiming their markets, particularly the Xbox. But this is a game you can get on there. Fantastic game, kid friendly, 7 plus. It's a game based around the idea of building and designing vehicles, which you then race on these crazy courses. A fantastic game, and certainly cheap now. So while it won't be easy, there are definitely games for kids on the Xbox platform and on Xbox Live. PlayStation 3 is slightly more kid friendly than the Xbox, but be careful because you will find plenty of games that are absolutely inappropriate for kids to play. Always got to look at that number. 17 plus is there for a reason. And doesn't matter how loudly your child protests, you have to keep that in the forefront of your mind when choosing whether to purchase that game for them. Would you purchase a film for them if it had 17 plus on the front, if it clearly says for adults only? Because again, we've got to be media agnostic here. There are books, there are films, there are games that are inappropriate for children because they were designed for adults. Don't blame the game, don't blame the book, don't blame the film. You have to make choices that are appropriate for your child. On the PlayStation, there are more games available that are kid friendly. This game's amazing. Little Big Planet, there's actually two versions of this now. Plenty to keep your child busy. It's creative, it's fun, it's non violent, nothing to dislike whatsoever. The Wii, as I said, is probably the main contender, and Nintendo as a platform. The Wii U, that's now the new console, is backwards compatible with games from the Wii and will actually use the same controllers with it. You will find a plethora of games for kids on this platform that are absolutely stunning. My own background, my first console, major console, was a Nintendo console, so I have a certain bias towards the platform, I have to add. Though at the moment, my main console of choice is the PlayStation. So, Mario, an amazing game. But the reverse is true, I think, with Nintendo. It's easy to be lulled to false insecurity. Not all games on Nintendo are good for kids. This is an amazing game. But would I want my kid to play it? Absolutely not. It's extremely violent. It's extremely fun. It's got a fantastic story. It's amazing gameplay. But you shouldn't be letting your child play it. And I think there's a danger with some parents are thinking, oh, it's a Wii game. It must be for children. No, that is not true. While we're on the subject of games and consoles, there are many consoles, many platforms, but what I think parents don't necessarily realise, there are many genres. I mean, you could arguably say that within again, this media agnosticism, that there are many genres with books, with films, with TV shows, and there are many genres with games too. Certain genres tend to dominate, but that's really unfair. These are the main players, and I would say that if you're worried about your child playing one of these and you're kind of not happy about them playing, for example, action games because there's too much violence, well, then maybe look at a different kind of game. Um, Rock Band is a fairly safe one under the music category. You could look at any of these genres and you'll find outstanding games that are definitely worth playing, that are maybe a game that you'll be happy for your child to play. Within these 10 genres, there's actually a whole bunch of subgenres. So, looking at this graphic, you will find that looking at action adventure, well, you get games that are action adventure games that are strongly focused on the driving experience. Uh, just the sheer variety and overlap between these genres is mind-boggling. So trust me when I say you have plenty of options in the gaming space. As a parent who's concerned about violence, say, if you look at these central two focuses, all games have action strategy elements, but the exploration conflict aspect of gaming, you could find games that are purely about exploration and have absolutely no conflict in them at all. One of the famous examples is Sims and SimCity, all about exploration and modelling. The conflict is minimal or zero, but you'll get games that particularly focus on conflict and have very little exploration. So take your choice. Now, this brings me on to another area. It is not even included as a genre by serious gamers. So it's worth clarifying for parents that really there is no such thing as an educational game, which may sound a bit stupid on the face of it because, hello, there obviously are. Well, yes. But my point is that what do we mean by an educational game? In this situation, we could say that some games are called educational, but they're not really. They're just dressed up as an educational game, but when you look at what the kid's doing, they're spending most of their time popping balloons, or they're moving things around the screen, or listening to weird noises, or they're laughing at cartoon characters falling over. But the learning is minimal or virtually zero. But it's being packaged and sold as an educational game because they know that's the kind of thing that sells. Don't believe it. The other side of it are games that are educational, but to call them games is kind of pushing it a bit. I mean, I get my daughter to play an amazing app called Squeebles for practicing her spelling, but you can ask her, it looks like a game, it's got cartoon characters, it makes nice noises, it's got little mini, you get a reward for getting certain scores, you get to play a mini game, but it's not a game to her. It's basically a digital worksheet. And in the 21st century, we need to be a little bit more savvy about expecting kids to go woohoo just because it's on a screen. They're not as enamored by that maybe as my generation is. And in many ways, I think some kids would actually prefer a photocopied worksheet than some of the actual games, quote unquote, that are called themselves educational. I'm not saying don't use these, just don't call them games. There's no point saying to a kid, hey, for your game time today, why don't you do a bit of Mathletics or some Khan Academy? No, it's not a game. It may look a bit like a game, it may sound like a game, but it's not a game. It's pretending to be a game, it's not the same thing. So once we've moved on and we're honest about it, I think we can accept that educational games have their place, but don't put it within the space or time that you allocate for a child for play. The industry actually has a somewhat disparaging term for these kinds of games, chocolate-covered broccoli. And really, if you look at the look on many children's faces when they're faced with playing these educational games, that's pretty much the equivalent. I think it's quite a good summary. This is a quote from a great article on the subject from a couple who are actually games developers. And I think what they're trying to sum up is that there's more to games than just getting kids to consume content. Consuming content is fine, but let's not pretend that it's anything other than what it is. It's a poorly disguised excuse for a learning experience. Moving on, what we really want is what we call a game. It really is a game, but actually there are educational elements to that game. Now that's a win-win because the game really is a great game and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. It is a game. First and foremost, that's what it excels at. But actually there are elements within the game that are educational. I would put games in this category like Minecraft, like Civilization, maybe even games like SimCity. These are games which were never developed with the intention of being educational. But actually, in retrospect, you can look at the game and see a whole bunch of powerful educational elements within that game. I call this chocolate-covered chocolate because we all like, well, I like chocolate. I love chocolate-covered chocolate. And what we're looking for, if you really want to engage kids and have them learn, you're looking for games that are games but are also educational. And here's where you say, well, what games are those? Well, I've already mentioned Minecraft. Clearly, it's pretty famous. And it is a fantastic example of a game. The children love playing it. They play it because they like it, but actually they're actually learning at the same time.
Minecraft is an open world game which lets players shape their environment by placing or destroying blocks. It's easy, it's creative, and it's social.
Minecraft is so valuable because it's a world of logic and creativity which he immediately understands. And this is the same for all children. Like, it's really helped my son in a lot of ways kind of express himself, which is really profoundly important. You know, I'd love to shake the maker of that game by the hand, because I think he's kind of changed my son's life.
So even if you don't like Minecraft, personally, it's not my kind of game. But I can see that my children love it. I can see that they engage in ways that are just absolutely sensational. And I think I don't want to make the mistake here of saying that Minecraft is the only educational game. I'd say we need to change the question. What is it about games, all games, that's educational? And let's face it, education isn't always a good thing. Like, you could be taught how to swear, you could be taught how to fight. So when we're saying education, I'm assuming we're looking for things that are positive, that are wholesome. At UWC, we have the UWC profile, which celebrates all of the things about humanity that we want kids to become. In many ways, the best games do actually encourage children to be creative, to be great communicators, to be risk takers, to be resilient, to be the things that we want them to be when they grow up and for the rest of their lives.